The bridge builder in ancient Babylon, 1700 years before Christ. The Euphrates River was both blessing and barrier. It brought water, brought trade, brought life itself, but it also divided East Bank from West Bank, merchant quarter from artisan quarter, opportunity from poverty, for those who could afford boats. The river was a highway, for everyone else it was a wall. This is the story of a builder who looked at that wall and saw possibility. He decided connection mattered more than profit, and discovered the greatest engineering challenge isn't physics, it's politics. Meet Sin-gamil, 37 years old master builder. He constructed warehouses, defensive walls, irrigation canals, solid structures that would outlast generations. His work was respected, his reputation secure. He could choose projects, charge premium rates, live comfortably, but comfort didn't satisfy him. He wanted to build something that mattered, something that would change lives. Not just store grain or channel water. He wanted legacy, real legacy, the kind that transformed a city. He proposed a bridge, a permanent span across the Euphrates, connecting East and West Babylon, allowing free passage for everyone, not just those who could afford boat fees. A public work for the entire city. The concept was revolutionary. Mesopotamian cities had ferries and seasonal pontoon bridges, but a permanent stone bridge spanning a major river, it had never been attempted in the region. The engineering challenges were immense. The Euphrates was wide at Babylon, nearly 300 feet deep, with powerful currents during flood season. Building foundations in the riverbed would require techniques no one had mastered. Supporting a span that length would require calculations beyond current knowledge, and the cost would be astronomical. Sin-gamil spent 2 years designing, studying river flow patterns, calculating load-bearing requirements, experimenting with foundation techniques. He developed a radical solution: stone pilings driven deep into the riverbed, connected by massive cedar beams from Lebanon, topped with stone arches. Ambitious, dangerous, possibly impossible. He presented his plans to Babylon's city council, showed his calculations, demonstrated his foundation technique with models, requested city funding for construction. The council's response was mixed. Some saw vision. A permanent crossing would boost trade, connect neighborhoods, increase property values. Others saw waste, enormous expense for something that might collapse during first flood season. Ferries worked adequately. Why risk disaster? Then the merchants spoke, the boat operators who controlled river crossings. They saw threat. A free bridge would destroy their business. Thousands of daily fares would disappear. Their livelihood would collapse. They organized opposition, argued the bridge would interfere with boat traffic, would change river flow patterns, would damage the fishing industry. They found engineers willing to testify that Sin-gamil's design was flawed, that the pilings wouldn't hold, that the first flood would destroy it. The city council rejected funding. Too risky, too expensive, too controversial. Sin-gamil's bridge would remain a drawing on clay tablets, beautiful, visionary, unbuildable. But Sin-gamil wasn't finished. If the city wouldn't fund it, he would find other sources. He approached wealthy merchants, not the boat operators, but traders who would benefit from easier river crossing. Textile merchants whose workshops were on the west bank, but markets on the east. Food suppliers moving goods between districts. Anyone who paid daily ferry fees. He proposed a partnership. They would fund construction. In return, they would collect bridge tolls for 20 years. After 20 years, the bridge would become public property, free passage forever. But for 2 decades, investors would profit. It was creative financing, privatizing construction costs while guaranteeing eventual public access. The merchants calculated returns. Daily traffic across the Euphrates was enormous. Even modest tolls would repay construction costs within 10 years. The next 10 years would be pure profit. 30 merchants formed a consortium, raised funds, hired Sin-gamil. Construction could begin, but they needed city approval for river construction. That meant navigating politics. The boat operators intensified opposition, advisors close to Hammurabi himself. The king's position was pragmatic. The bridge would be permitted if it met strict engineering standards. City engineers would inspect at every stage. If the bridge failed inspection, Construction would halt if it succeeded. It would be allowed to operate under the consortium's toll arrangement, but Hammurabi added a condition: the poor would have free access. Workers going to daily labor couldn't afford tolls. They would be allowed to cross without payment during morning and evening hours. The bridge must serve everyone, not just those who could pay. The consortium agreed. Reduced toll hours meant reduced profits, but the project could proceed. Construction began in spring when river levels were low. Sin-gamil drove the first pilings into the riverbed, massive cedar logs, 40 feet long, driven into mud and bedrock, the foundation of everything that would follow. The work was brutal. Laborers toiled in waist-deep water, fighting the current, wrestling massive timbers into position. Divers checked underwater alignment. One wrong calculation, and the entire structure would collapse. The boat operators didn't give up. They tried sabotage, cutting mooring lines on construction rafts. They damaged equipment and spread rumors that workers were dying, that the river gods were angry. Sin-gamil caught the saboteurs, bringing them before magistrates. They were convicted and fined heavily. The boat operator consortium was warned. Further, interference would result in criminal prosecution. Construction continued. The pilings were completed, 6 massive stone pillars rising from the riverbed. Tested during minor flood season, they held. The calculations were working. Next came the span, massive cedar beams from Lebanon, each weighing tons, required dozens of workers. They were laid across the pilings, locked together with bronze brackets, creating the framework. City engineers inspected constantly, checking measurements and testing load-bearing capacity. They found no flaws. Sin-gamil's design was working. The impossible was becoming possible. The stone arches came last, curved supports distributing weight evenly across the cedar beams. Each arch required precise cutting and perfect placement. One misaligned stone could create a weak point. 2 years after construction began, the bridge was complete. A permanent stone span across the Euphrates, 300 feet long, 20 feet wide, strong enough for loaded carts, beautiful enough to inspire awe. The testing phase was terrifying. Sin-gamil stood on the bridge as fully loaded carts crossed, feeling for vibration, listening for stress sounds, watching the pilings for any shift. The bridge held firm. City engineers conducted their final inspection, approved the structure, declared it safe for public use. The toll collection could begin. The opening day was spectacular. Thousands crossed, paying their tolls, marveling at the permanence. The bridge that couldn't be built had been built, and it worked. The boat operators lost business immediately. Their daily passenger counts dropped by half. Some went bankrupt, others adapted, started cargo services, found new niches in a changed economy. The poor workers used the free crossing hours, morning and evening. Hundreds crossed without paying. Going to work, returning home. The bridge served everyone as Hammurabi had mandated. The consortium collected tolls for 20 years. Profits exceeded projections. Every investor made substantial returns. Then, as agreed, the bridge became public property. Tolls ended. Free passage for all, forever. Sin-gamil lived to see his bridge serve Babylon for 32 years, survived multiple floods, required maintenance but never failed. His name became synonymous with quality construction. Other cities requested his designs, wanted their own permanent bridges. He built 3 more before he died at 69, each incorporating lessons learned from the Euphrates Bridge, each serving communities for generations. His engineering techniques influenced Mesopotamian construction for centuries, but the Euphrates Bridge remained his masterpiece, the one that proved impossible could be possible, that private funding could serve public good, that vision combined with skill could transform cities. The bridge stood for nearly 800 years, survived Babylon's decline, witnessed empires rise and fall, eventually succumbed to a catastrophic flood that changed the river's course, but its pilings remained visible for another 1,000 years. Archaeological evidence of ancient engineering brilliance today. Scholars study Sin-gamil's techniques, find them remarkably sophisticated, load distribution calculations that rival modern engineering. Foundation methods used in similar form today. A 37-year-old builder in ancient Mesopotamia had solved problems that would stump engineers for millennia. The bridge builder didn't just span a river. He connected communities, proved that public good and private profit could coexist, demonstrated that the impossible was just the not yet achieved, and left a legacy measured not in wealth, but in the millions who crossed his bridge over 8 centuries. Connection matters more than division, vision matters more than limitation, and sometimes, the greatest structures aren't the tallest or the strongest, they're the ones that bring people together. The Bridge Builder, Silent Babylon, where ancient civilizations speak.